Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Don't Be Ridiculous podcast. It is Sunday afternoon, Sunday evening, excuse me, about little after 7:30 on the East Coast, and getting ready for Heat Celtics Game 3. Heat up 2-0. And Clark, it is a hell of a time to be a South Florida sports fan. The Heat are up 2-0. The Panthers are up 2-0 in the conference finals, both sports. And you know what? We deserve it after how disappointing the Dolphins are every single year. It
Yeah,
is it is fantastic to have at least, this year two major sports teams that can actually put it together. And the Heat are always, the Heat have always put it together ever since Pat Riley's been in charge. But yeah, I just wanted to open with that man, this is fantastic, and I love drowning myself in Boston's tears. I can't get enough of the Celtics choking on their own
yeah,
vomit.
yeah. They're
It's
both.
fantastic.
The Heat and the Panthers are both 8 seeds, so that's what makes it even better. Like, it's weird though. I'll be honest with you. Like, I felt a little bad for Knicks fans, honestly. Like, which
Yeah.
sounds, like I'll never feel bad for Yankees fans, but Knicks fans, I just feel like, it's not their fault that they have a shitty owner and they don't know what the hell they're doing and they've been a dumpster fire for over 20 years, you know. So part of me is like, yeah, that really sucks, but it's like, obviously I'm going to root for the Heat against the Knicks. So I felt a little bad because there were so many like stars there and stuff, and it's just like, I don't feel bad. I've developed a new thing. I don't feel bad for Lakers fans. I don't feel bad for fans who feel entitled, or at least look like they feel entitled. And Lakers fans, they're kind of ridiculous. Okay, I mean, when you see them, when you just, I mean, we'll get to the game yesterday, but when you see them, just sort of like, what the hell's going on? Like, how are we losing? And it's like, well, the Nuggets are better than you, and it's like, well, that doesn't make any sense. We're the Lakers, and it's like, well, you're not the best team every year. Like, what. And then just some Laker fans in the media are kind of annoying. So anyway, it's funny. Like Boston, it's weird. I'm not necessarily, to be honest, I feel bad for Boston fans, right? Because they root hard for this. They root hard for their team, right? And their team is just choking this away. They're literally it seems like they give games away. So I don't necessarily feel. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe that'll change. I don't know. I'm just off the top of my
Yeah,
head.
no. Boston is not the city to feel bad for. They've won, how many championships in this century? I mean, they've got 4 World
I just
Series.
mean the Celtics. I'm not including the Patriots in that for obvious reasons. I'm not, no. Uh, but I just it's kind of I mean, it's one thing to lose, like when LeBron beat the Celtics twice. It's like, well, the Heat were just better than them. But this is kind of like the Celtics. It just feels like they're choking it away. So
Yeah, there's nothing better. And it's like you were texting me, like winning a game against a good team on the road. There's nothing like it. There's nothing like the quiet crowd. You can hear a pin drop after you beat them in a crucial game. The Laker fans yesterday were despondent. It was, because usually it's very excited. That Laker crowd gets into it, and but it was, yeah, it was a funeral in there yesterday. So, but no, I don't feel bad for Boston. But sorry, so let's talk about the game. So Heat beat Celtics in game 2, so they win both games in Boston. This game, in the first game, the Heat had a massive third quarter that kind of propelled them to the win. In this game, the Celtics had an 8-point lead starting the fourth quarter, and they basically kind of pissed it away. And the Heat, Grant Williams got Jimmy Butler going, and Jimmy Butler did what he usually does. But he didn't really have to be spectacular because, they kind of won the game anyway. But I think there's, after the game was over, it kind of hears some like there. So there's like the conversation around the Celtics is, well, Joe Mazzulla doesn't know what he's doing, and why doesn't Tatum get the ball more in the fourth quarter? And it's the typical easy sports radio bullshit narrative about the best player is supposed to take the shots and win us the game. right? Well, I went back and I watched. I look at the stats after every game. I look at the stats to see who kind of did what. What were some major factors in it, so I get a better idea of what actually happened in the game. Because sometimes watching it, you don't necessarily you miss things. So, my basic take is the Celtics are losing this series on defense, not on offense. Jason Tatum in the first game, right? They're like, oh, he didn't take a shot in the fourth quarter. Well, that's not really accurate, though. He drove to the basket 3 times, got fouled, and made all 6 free throws. So he was putting pressure on the Heat. He was doing what he's supposed to do in that situation, which is what everyone thinks LeBron should do 48,000 times a game, which is drive to the basket. And so he was doing that. Now their offense does have some issues, and they turn the ball over when they shouldn't. They make some stupid mistakes, but it is not about Jason Tatum's got to take more shots. In the second game, so Jason Tatum drove to the basket 3 times, got fouled 3 times again, made the 6 free throws. He had 3 passes that led directly to baskets, either from him or like the hockey assist. Like he passed to one guy, there's a guy wide open, he kicks it to them, they make a basket. So he accounted for basically 12 points in overtime because of the things he did. Now, he did turn the ball over twice. He did make some mistakes, but when you watch it, yes, the Celtics offense has some problems. I'm not saying their offense is perfect and everything will be fine. No, they have some issues. They have some issues about, Jaylen Brown just goes to the corner and doesn't really do much, and they don't move the ball really well. Like there's a couple of plays in overtime, or not in overtime, in the fourth quarter where Tatum or Smart or somebody's driving to the basket and there's guys wide open to kick the ball to, and they don't make the pass. And then Joe Mazzulla after the game is like, well, what did you think you guys kind of, struggled offensively in the fourth quarter? He's like, no, I like the shot. We got good shots. We just didn't make them. Now, I rewatched it. You didn't get good shots, number one. Okay, you made some of them, right? Grant Williams shot a 3 and made 1. But again, you've got the wrong guys taking the shots. That's number one. And in a close game, that really matters. Like, I understand over a series or over a season, if we just take open threes, we'll make enough of them to win. I get it. But in a small sample size, like a fourth quarter, it doesn't matter. Like, who's taking the shots? So I think, but honestly, their offense, like the Celtics offense wasn't great. I'm not saying that. But their defense was downright god-awful. They don't double-team Jimmy Butler one time. Okay, they don't try to stop the ball one time. They're letting Caleb Martin go to the basket. Bam is just destroying Horford or Williams or whoever they keep putting on him. So they're not doing anything with that, and they're giving him all kinds of space. So that's kind of my overall thought on especially that game. But the first 2 games is, yeah, the Celtics are crumbling offensively. I get it, but their defense completely gets lit up in the fourth quarter of these games. And so if you're going to do that, you're not going to stop Jimmy Butler one time. And by the way, the Heat are playing zone defense in the fourth quarter of a playoff game, and the Celtics can't beat it. Like on the other end, they
don't play it all like every single possession. He mixes
right.
it in. But yeah, that seems to really, which I find hilarious because it's like you guys have played the Heat. Like you played them in the bubble, you played them last year, you play them in the regular season. Like you should have an idea how to do this. Some of that can be coaching, but yeah, like they're kind of letting Bam like get free,
Yeah.
And that's causing problems. He's he's in there fighting for rebounds and stuff, and also it's you mentioned this when we were watching the game, like the Heat are just tougher, and I think that's the case because I think the Heat understand in playoff basketball you can get away with more stuff. The refs.
Yep.
I sometimes I get annoyed with that discussion about how the refs swallow the whistle, whatever, but it is kind of true, and so there's more like when you're trying to get rebounds and do different stuff, you can get a little physical, and the Heat know that, and they play that way, and the Celtics, they kind of don't,
Well, by the way, to your point, perfect example of this. In the fourth quarter, late in the fourth quarter, Jimmy Butler goes, one-on-one against whoever, takes a shot, misses it, right? It bounces off the rim. Bam, grabs it, and goes up to dunk it. So on the play, I rewatched the play a few times. He's got Horford, but Horford doesn't really box him out. He just kind of puts his arms out, and Bam just chucks him, moves him out of the way, goes right to the basket. Jaylen Brown is standing right there. He lets Bam go up and get the rebound and then go up and dunk it, doesn't jump, doesn't foul him, doesn't do anything to stop him. So I don't know what is going on. And the thing is, like, I heard Bomani Jones made a good point. He's like, the Celtics have struggled with this for the last 3 or 4 years. This isn't just, Joe Mazzulla sucks. Let's be honest. Exactly. He's not a good coach, but this isn't a new problem. Like, this isn't something new for the Celtics. So, I think in that game they just and this series overall, like the defense, like last year, the Celtics calling card was defense. We're going to play great defense. Our offense may go up and down, right? But we're going to be great on defense, and that's how we're going to hang in there with whoever we play. And this year they're doing the same stuff on offense, but now their defense isn't as good.
Yeah.
So it's like you're literally the one thing that you had to hang your hat on, you don't have it anymore. So I just, and I don't want to turn this into we're just going to bang on the Celtics, but it's kind of hard not to because you can see the Celtics have more talent.
Yeah.
But like you and I said before the series started, we're like the Celtics, like, they have a better team overall, but they're going to screw this up. They're going to find a way to lose games they should win, and they've managed to do it twice in a row. And like I said, what I didn't take into account was they were playing the 76ers last time. So now they're playing a team that's not going to let you get away with doing all this stuff. The Heat, the Heat are more efficient. They turn the ball over less. Like, they don't make the same mistakes that other teams make, and so that shrinks the margin that the Celtics have when we talk about talent.
Yeah, and also I just don't think. Like, again, I think the Heat are going to win the series now. I mean, before the series, I thought Boston would win, but I think the Heat are going to win the series. And the thing is, when you, just watch the games, when you watch Miami, they're behind, it's like, you're not really... Now, they may end up losing the game, but they're not really worried about it. It's like, we're behind a little bit. Spoelstra calls timeout. All right, let's fix this. You got to be, getting the details right on all this stuff. And then, they'll make some shots and they'll just kind of hang around, and then they'll be really active on defense. They'll have their hands everywhere. They'll be trying to get turnovers, trying to get steals and stuff. And they'll just, they'll kind of crawl their way right back. Boston, when you, especially in Boston, when the game gets close, you just you're watching and the fans are just like, oh shit, here we go again. Like, there's that energy there where you can kind of see that. So, that's kind of, the Celtics just are not, they don't seem like a very resilient team. So, it's funny saying that, though, because, they did get down 3-2 to Milwaukee last year, and they came back and won, and then they sort of screwed around against the Sixers, but then they beat them. So, it's not like we've never seen any resilience from them, but for whatever reason, the Heat just kind of have their number to an extent.
Yeah, no, listen, the Celtics' talent shows through at some point. The question is that enough? Is that enough to win the series? And the way they've played, it's gotten worse. Like, it started in the Atlanta series, and it's progressively gotten worse as the playoffs have gone on. And I was reading a lot of Bill Simmons tweets. He had 8 or 9 tweets about different things in the series.
Hey, Willie. Hey, shh. Sorry.
So, and one of the things he said was that Boston's going to win this series on making threes and layups.
Right.
Like, that's basically what they have to do. They have to make a certain amount of threes, and in this series, not only are they not making enough threes, they're not shooting enough of them because the Heat, again, it just goes to the coaching mismatch. Miami knows what Boston intends to do. So we're like, all right, we're going to run them off the three-point line. We're going to funnel them into the paint, and we're going to close off driving lanes. That's what we're going to do. And so that's part of the reason they're playing zone defense. And Boston is just not making enough threes to get Miami to stop playing it, and you've got, I go back to this, they got Duncan Robinson out there and the Celtics don't go after him. It's just like, what are we doing here? So, I think, I I can't believe at this point we're in the conference finals and no one's double teaming Jimmy Butler. I don't understand. Not only are they not double teaming him,
they did maybe a couple times. Maybe
but
I'm wrong.
or maybe beyond the 3-point line. But the other thing is, Clark, they're allowing switches where they're just allowing Butler to get Grant Williams or Brogdon on him, and he's like, "Oh, good, I get this guy who I can torch. Fantastic!" Yeah. It's just like, what are you doing? Like that's the thing that annoys me in the NBA more than anything when we're talking about gameplay and strategy is people just switching for no reason. Like they run a pick and they just switch. It's like, go under the pick, make Jimmy Butler make 3-pointers. Like he doesn't want to shoot them. Like he will if he has to, but he doesn't want to shoot him. So yeah, and the other thing is like that blows me away about people talking about the Heat, like, oh, they got all these undrafted players. How good are they really? Yeah, but all these guys have played together for like 3 or 4 years now. It's not like the Heaters pulling guys out of nowhere that haven't played together. You know, like these guys were all of them were there last year, well, except Kevin Love, and then a lot of them have been there for 2 or 3 years, coming up through the system, so they know exactly what they're supposed to do. So I don't think
they've been getting good looks from 3, and also I've been really impressed with like Vincent and Caleb Martin. Like if you close out on them, they attack the basket. And they're getting they're able to get layups. I mean, some of them are kind of difficult shots, or they have to go like a reverse layup or something. But I've been really impressed with that, you know. And then Bam has been Bam's doing what he needs to do. Like I don't need him to be super aggressive on offense all the time, but every now and then take an elbow jumper. Every now and then post somebody up, back them down, like get a little hook shot or something, you know. Other than that, just catch the ball, you know, facilitate the offense and be really good on defense. But what he did in game 2, that's what you need him to do. You know, he was just attacking the glass. He was playing defense, and then every now and then you got you know some offense from him. Some of it was he's running toward the rim or something. But I mean that's kind of what you need. And if they're going to get that, then it's like again, they have the next 2 games at home and they're up 2-0, so I think they're going to win. But if they keep getting that, I don't see any reason why they wouldn't win. So.
Yeah, and I mean, I think Bam is, if they're going to continue to defend Bam the way that they are, he should just continue to be aggressive. If they're going to continue to give him space and just give him the foul line jumper, and plus you saw what he did when Al Horford was guarding him. He's like, "Oh, I got this guy," and he just went right after him and scored. Right. So I think that's what he's got to do, because it makes the Celtics defense react, and then he kicks it out to everybody else. So yeah, I think the Celtics need to win some of these games in blowouts. That's really how they have to do it, because if you you can't hang around in close games with Miami. Like if you're sitting there in the 4th quarter with 5 minutes to go and it's close, we know how discombobulated the Celtics get. And I love, like, the other thing is, like, the coaching, like, we've understated the coaching mismatch. I mean, Spoelstra he's just at this point, I think he's just fucking with Joe Mazzulla. He's like, "Oh, we're just going to play zone in the 1st quarter for a little bit, and then we'll do it in the 4th quarter for a little bit, you know, just to get you guys all screwed up." You know, it's just like right when you guys think you know what you're supposed to do, it's like, we're going to mess it up with this. And again, Mazzulla doesn't call timeout. I hate to it's beating a dead horse. I'm not going to kill the guy, but dude, like, when it's an important possession in the game, like, call a fucking timeout. Like, how difficult is this? And then, oh, by the way, I read this tweet from Le Batard show. He was like, "I want to congratulate the Celtics on winning 5 out of the 8 quarters." Because Mazzulla's like, "Hey, we won 3 out of 4 quarters. We just lost the 3rd quarter." You know? And last year, everybody was doing that last year. Remember, like, the series was 2-2 or whatever, and everybody was like, "Oh, the Celtics have won, 12 of the 15 quarters," or something like that. Everybody was saying that. That was the argument. The Heat aren't good. The Celtics have won most of the quarters. They should have won the games.
Yeah.
It just kills me. Anyway, but let's go Heat, damn it. Win this thing. For the Heat to be in the finals again.
That sucks, though. I'm watching the other series, and I'm like, as a Heat fan, I think I'd rather play the Lakers. I don't really want to play the Nuggets, because offensively, I don't know how they've just got so much going on. They're so efficient.
Yeah. So let's. Listen. It's this Heat team the last 4 years has just been a treat. Thank God for them. They've really it's so enjoyable to watch a team when you have, when you're playing with house money, It is the
Yeah.
greatest thing ever as a sports fan. When your team is
Yeah.
overachieving and everyone's upset about it, it's great. Um, anyway, so let's move on to the Nuggets Lakers. I going into Game 3, I mean, we had texted a little bit about this. I mean, I thought that Denver would have a shot to get one of the two games in LA because I thought because of how they grinded out Game 2, Denver was able to grind out Game 2 to get the win. And I thought, okay, Denver can hang in there with this team. I thought, the Lakers even. I mean, maybe if the Lakers make a bunch of threes, maybe they could, find a way to win this game easily. But I thought, if Denver's competitive in this game and we get to the fourth quarter, the Lakers are in trouble. I could not have imagined the way that game went. I mean, Murray starts the game on fire, as a continuation of Game 2. They have the lead at halftime, and at halftime, it just cracked me up. On the set, they go to the NBA countdown, and Michael Wilbon is like, I mean, Murray had 30, and they're only up by 3? This is a problem. They could be in trouble here. The Lakers, I think, are in pretty good shape. And I understand that argument. That's a fair point. But you got beat in two relatively close games in the first two games, and you come out and you don't have the lead at halftime? Like I'm like I was a little like I was like that's like I feel if I'm Denver I feel good. Like look, Jokic hasn't done anything and we got the lead,
Yeah.
And then the third quarter went on, right? And then Jokic gets his fourth foul, and I thought, oh man, here we go. Well, this will decide the game. Like if the Denver can hang in there, and Denver not only had the lead but kept the lead. A whole bunch of guys. Porter made a great shot. Kentavious Caldwell-Pope made a great play. Like. They did it with a little bit of it with Murray not on the court. And, so they come back, they start the fourth quarter, and they've got a 2-point lead, and they put Jokic back in. And Jokic basically did his thing. The Lakers made a run. LeBron hit a couple of threes, and you thought, okay, maybe the Lakers have a chance now. But every time the Lakers got close, Denver basically answered. And, they got the baskets. Bruce Brown had a couple of great baskets at the end. You had the one where Murray threw up a prayer and Brown tipped it in. And, so I was just like, and then when it got close, it got to 5 minutes to go in the fourth quarter. I'm like, man, LA, like this is really good if they're Denver, and Denver went on a run to win the game. And I was just like, man, like this team is legit.
Yeah. So I guess it's okay that Jokic won 2 MVPs in a row. Are we okay with that now? Do we, are we going to stop criticizing him for losing when he's, he didn't have Jamal Murray and Michael Porter Jr.? Like, is that can we stop doing that now? Like,
yeah, can Nick Wright stop telling us he's the 8th best basketball player in the NBA? Sorry, dude. I hate to tell you, like Jokic is better than LeBron. I know, sacrilegious. How could I say that? Right now in the NBA, Jokic is way better than LeBron.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I do want to say that I think we were kind of right about the Lakers because our point was, could they win a series or two? Yeah, maybe, but they're not, and I do feel to an extent they've run out of gas. Some of that is, I think, LeBron he's only got so much in the tank. And the thing is, people are ripping on him for not driving to the basket enough. And that's okay. First of all, that's really tough to do. And that can be really taxing, especially if you're older. So I understand him shooting threes. It's just, he needs to be making more of them. But, I get that to an extent. But, I was kind of saying that, I thought at a certain point, LeBron would really need to take over some of these games, and I just questioned, did he have enough in the tank to really do it? And how consistent would Anthony Davis be? Because if Anthony Davis is playing really well, he's insanely good. He's one of the top, 5 players in the league. But, without those two really, really playing at a high level, I just question whether, the Lakers could get through some of these games and some of these series. And, the other guys are, they are what they are. They're role players. There's only so much you can count on from them. I'm not saying you couldn't necessarily win a championship with some of these guys, but, LeBron and AD have to be really carrying the team. And I think at certain points, they need to kind of overcome what the other team's doing well. And I just don't think that they have enough, And LeBron, he's older. He was kind of making some mistakes and, whatever. And they're not playing, credit to the Nuggets. They're making their threes. They also are getting like some mid-range shots and they're getting to the basket. But yeah, I mean, there's stuff about the Lakers defense I think you can criticize.
Yeah, I mean, what bothered me, the last couple of days was people like, oh, LeBron, he keeps shooting those threes. Like, what are you doing? Don't you know that's the shot they want you to take? As if LeBron hasn't played in the NBA for 20 fucking years and doesn't know exactly what everybody's doing. Like, it just blows my mind. Like, all of a sudden, they're like, LeBron must be stupid or something. Like, what's wrong with him? It's just like, are you guys retarded? Like, how do you not get this? Yeah, he's shooting threes. Yeah, you know why? Because that's a good shot for him because he can't get to the basket every single time. He can't just use up every ounce of energy. They're like, oh, why doesn't he post up? They were saying it during the game. LeBron, every time LeBron posts up, he gets a good shot. Yeah, he can't do it every single minute of every game. You can't do it all the time. Like, he's just like, and by the way, this is what I texted you was in the first game, like LeBron and Anthony Davis both played well on offense and defense, and Denver still beat them. So the thing is, like, I get, well, everyone's complaining, but LeBron played well yesterday. Yeah, he wasn't unbelievably volcanic, dominant guy, but that guy's gone. He can't be that guy all the time anymore. And Anthony Davis, here's the other thing. Anthony Davis, like when they won the championship in the bubble, Anthony Davis was a really good jump shooter. He was making threes. So the problem is Anthony Davis's game is now 12 feet and in. So it limits what he's able to do. So yeah, I don't agree with any of the LeBron criticisms. Like, what do you want him to do? Like, they're doing the best they can. And the other thing is, like you mentioned, we were right about the Lakers. Like, look, when the playoffs started, we doubted the Lakers the whole time. But when the playoffs started, I said, look at the matchups. They're getting Memphis without their big guys, so they can beat them. They're getting the Warriors, who the Warriors have been a mess the entire season. Like, let's not sugarcoat it. Steph Curry was unbelievable in the playoffs, but let's not mess around. Like, the Warriors were not a real good team this year. They were pretty average. And so the Lakers beat them. It was a hard-fought series. Took them 6 games to do it. And by the end, the Warriors were a one-trick pony. They had the Steph Curry pick and roll, and that's it. That's the only move that they had. They were out of moves. And so the Lakers kicked their ass. Why? Because they're much bigger than them. But then they go play this Denver team, right? Denver's a well-oiled machine. They got big guys. They got small guys. They got everything you need. They can make threes. They've got unbeatable matchups. I thought Anthony Davis would be more competitive against Jokic. Jokic is just killing everyone who's guarding him. Like, and I don't want to hear the Rui Hachimura thing. That only worked because Davis was coming over to help. Nobody's guarding Jokic and doing anything to him. So, yeah, I think, and, to go back to your point about the Lakers, people saying the whole time the Lakers have an elite defense, and I'm listening to Jason Timp's podcast, and he's talking about, they had the makings of a championship team. They had an elite defense and whatever. Like, I just think that is a complete farce. I think those are regular season numbers that people are using, number one. They're playing 2 teams in the playoffs that they clearly had tremendous advantages against, that had offensive issues that they got to play. And they're playing Denver, and Denver is lighting their ass up, even when Jokic is on the bench. So I don't buy – listen, I'm not shitting on the Lakers. I think the Lakers, what they did with their team was great. Like, that was great that they were able to create that, and their defense was decent. But this idea that the Lakers are just going to slow down really good teams in the NBA is a joke.
Yeah. Especially because you get, and like you said, the matchups, they just didn't have to play somebody like Denver.
Yep.
And to an extent, I understand people not ready to jump on board with Denver. But, some of that's just people don't watch them enough. And I think people just get, LeBron, blah, blah, blah. And it's like, guys, can we be honest about LeBron? He's in year 20. He can't stay healthy through an entire season anymore. He's only got so much energy. He can't do the stuff that he was doing even 4 or 5 years ago. So it's just, now again, if they have a full season, And that's the other thing, though. I was thinking about this. I'm like, what if they had a higher seed in the playoffs? Well, I don't think they're the kind of team that would get the 1 seed. So even then, they would be playing Denver on the road the first 2 games. So even that, I don't think would matter that much. So yeah, it's just the Lakers. I didn't think Denver would get up 3-0. I'm a little surprised by that. I mean, but Jamal Murray's played really well. And Michael Porter Jr. They've just been getting stuff from people. Bruce Brown, has been making plays. And the other thing is, you notice these teams that keep winning, they get a lot of mid-range stuff. You notice
Yep.
that? Jamal
Yep.
Murray's doing fadeaways and stuff. Jokic obviously closer to the basket. But yeah, it's one of those things. I'm like, these teams that want to just be heavy analytics. I'm not saying there's something inherently wrong with analytics, but like when you get into the postseason, you got to be threatening teams on all 3 levels. You can't just be ignoring mid-range stuff. I know mid-range shots are much more difficult, but I'm just the teams that you keep seeing this. You see these teams that advance far in the playoffs, and it's like, yeah, they're doing mid-range stuff. That's not everything. I mean, they also have to make shots. They got to play defense, whatever else. But yeah, I find that interesting.
Well, I think that we've reached a point, and I'm glad you brought this up. I think we've reached a point where, with the 3-pointers, where there's kind of a magic number of attempts, kind of a symmetry between too many and not enough. Because I think in today's NBA, like it's first of all, the entire narrative that the Warriors won because they made a bunch of threes is just complete bullshit. Like it's been,
Right.
if it hasn't been disproven by now, like I don't know what to tell you. They won because of their versatility, because they did everything well. Okay. Yes, did they have some elite shooting? Sure, but that's not their primary mode of what they do. They got all kinds of easy baskets too. But I think the number, I don't know where the magic number is, but to me, it's about 35 attempts a game. You shoot about 35 threes a game, just watching the stats from these playoffs. And you don't have to be an unbelievable 3-point shooting team. You have to make enough of them. You got to make enough threes in a game. I think you got to make at least 10 to 12 a game, I think is where you want to be. So I think that's what it has to be. And you saw in that game, and listen, I think Denver's defense, I don't think Denver's defense is great, but I do think they get a bad rap for people acting like, oh, they're not good on defense at all. I think that's ridiculous. I think the way they've adapted in this series and changed things and covered pick and rolls in different ways and done a bunch of stuff, I think they've more than held their own on defense. Okay? Now, the Lakers did miss a lot of open threes, and they're not a good shooting team, and that
Right.
becomes a problem. So when you're talking about a team like the Lakers, that becomes an issue because they don't have the tremendous offensive firepower that some of these other teams have. They have to make a certain amount of them to stay with it, just like the Miami Heat do, right?
Yeah.
The Heat are not a great 3-point shooting team, but they make enough of them. And that's what you have to do in the playoffs. You have to be able to make enough of them. But I totally agree with you. When it comes down to crunch time, it's Jimmy Butler in the mid-range. It's Bam Adebayo from the free throw line. It's these little shots that you can make a high enough percentage of them, even if the defense is good, in playoff games when you need them. So
Well,
I think
and when the Warriors
you're
have
right.
Durant, what do you think Durant does? He shoots threes, but he makes a living shooting mid-range shots. Pull-up jumpers and fadeaways and all this other stuff. So, yeah, like you have to have some of that because it's just the three-point shots it can still, even though the players who play now are just such great 3-point shooters, it can still come and go. And so there's times where you're going to have the mid-range is there for you, and there's times where you got to take it and make some of them. Because it's the defense is kind of giving you that, and you got to take them.
Yep.
So.
Yeah, and the teams that have guys who can make those shots, they usually do pretty well. And the Celtics have basically abandoned that with the way that they play now, and you can see it's causing some issues. So,
Yeah.
I'm glad that you brought up, people not paying attention to the Nuggets. Like I was watching something, video from somebody, and they were basically saying like, look, if you don't understand how good the Nuggets are, then you're just a casual NBA fan. You don't understand what's going on. Because the people that have been watching this and paying attention, they're aware of this. Like, it's people figuring out, oh, Jamal Murray's really good. Yeah, no shit. Like, where have you guys been? Like, honestly, you watch any of those highlights from the bubble, Jamal Murray is killing people. You know, you watch the highlights of the playoffs from this year. So I'm confused as to why. I mean, I get it. They're not the Lakers. They're not the Knicks. They're not going to get all the attention. They're not the Celtics. I understand that. But at the same time, it just blows my mind how many people, Clark, after the Lakers beat the Warriors, like the Denver's been playing really well. They're the 1 seed. They beat Phoenix in the playoffs, a team that at one point Phoenix was the favorite to win the title. Okay. Denver beats them, and then people are picking the Lakers. Like, I don't get it. All the guys at Fox, Colin Cowherd, Nick Wright, Chris Broussard, are all picking the Lakers to win. And I'm just like, you guys kept saying the Lakers are not a championship team, and now you're going to pick them to beat Denver? I just thought that was too far. I'm not saying that the Lakers couldn't have made it competitive. I'm surprised that Denver's up 3-0. I'm not saying that. But, you know, I don't understand how I don't understand at this point, like, what are you guys talking about? What are you guys watching where you're not getting it?
Yeah. Well, it's one of those things where people make a quick analysis of stuff and they just go, well, I know who that person is and I like them, so I'm picking them. You know, I know who that team is, whatever, so I'm picking them. And, that is what it is. That's going to continue to happen. I mean, I was a little annoyed with earlier this week, because Mike Malone, the coach or Michael Malone, excuse me, apparently he doesn't like to be called Mike, was at the press conference after, I think, game 1 and, or game 2, I can't remember. And he was just saying that, like, all the people want to talk about is the Lakers and blah, blah, blah. And Dan Patrick's like, well, yeah, you got to win, so it's like you shouldn't be demanding attention. And I'm just like, look, first of all, the coach is doing that because that's just bulletin board material, and the team is just going to feed off that. So that's why that's happening. So don't act like it's just this genuine, like, pissed off that people aren't giving them more attention. But, I understand the frustration. It's like, we're the 1 seed, okay? Jokic has won the MVP twice, okay? And then, I don't know, people are just, they're not wanting to buy into it because they're thinking like, well, you guys haven't done it before. And it's like, you guys lost in the first round and the second round the last couple. So like, yeah, they had injuries. Like, what? They lost to Phoenix. Phoenix they almost won the championship, okay? And then they lost to the Warriors in the second round. The Warriors won the championship. So, like, and also, I mean, do we have to keep saying this? The Nuggets made it to the Western Conference Finals in the bubble. Oh, the Nuggets haven't been here before. What the fuck are you talking about? Like, what, Now, again, I understand people are going to give more attention to the Lakers because they're the Lakers. Okay, I get it. And there's LeBron and Anthony Davis and all that stuff. But, yeah, to an extent, I do understand the frustration because it's just like the just sort of knee-jerk analysis. Well, LeBron's there, so, yeah, LeBron's there. He's in year 20. He can't stay healthy. Like, what have you been watching? He doesn't have the energy to keep, to do what he used to be able to do, to like take. I mean, LeBron used to take. I mean, that Cavs team that he took to the first Cavs team he took to the final, and then the last one that he took to the finals. I mean, are you kidding me? He had nothing. He's J.R. Smith, and like he didn't have anything, and he went all the way to the finals. So he can't do that anymore.
Yeah, no, and listen, I agree with you. Like, and, to my earlier point, like, people in sports media can't figure out what Michael Malone's doing. They can't figure out that is completely designed to fire up his team and keep them motivated after they just won the game. Because it's natural after you win a game to have a little bit of a letdown the next game. Like, nobody can figure that out. Like, that's what pissed me off about what Dan Patrick was doing. I'm like, Dan, like, you don't realize that is a complete facade? Like, you really think Michael Malone cares if you give him respect? Not at all. He couldn't give a shit less. That was 100% gamesmanship. That's all that was. So just call it out. Like, you really think Michael Malone's that dumb? Like, really? Like, it's just like LeBron. Well, LeBron shoots too many threes. Doesn't he know that that's not a great shot for him? I'm pretty sure LeBron knows that. I'm pretty sure he knows. So, I mean, he's been credited as being the smartest basketball player ever. He didn't just get dumb, So, yeah, it blows my mind. And, yeah, I just I get, and the thing is, Clark, you know what? The Nugget, it doesn't matter. The Nuggets could win the title, and by the way, let's talk. We're going to talk about that in a second. I think they're going to win the title. It won't matter. People still aren't going to give them. People are still going to pick against them. They're still not going to take them seriously. It's going to be like the Spurs dynasty, where it's just nobody wants to watch them. They're bored with them, so they just are not. They're not going to.
I don't mind watching Denver.
Oh, I think it's great. If you love basketball, it's fantastic.
Yeah, I mean, the Spurs, I mean, you have to understand, okay? The NBA went through after Jordan retired, the NBA went through a period where it kind of sucked, okay? The Lakers' little dynasty with Kobe and Shaq, it was kind of, I mean, you watch some of those games and you're like, oh, God, really? This is how the NBA used to be? And then the Spurs played in the finals against the Nets, one of the worst finals you will ever watch. It was so fucking terrible. Okay, so that, I think that kind of turned people off, and then they kept getting, they got back in 05, whatever they won. 07, there was the Stoudemire suspension that kind of pissed some people off, you know, and they were just kind of, I don't know, they were kind of chippy, which is fine. That's kind of how you have to be to win a lot in the playoffs. And they would foul Shaq a lot just so he would have to shoot free throws. So, yeah, I mean, was some of that overblown? Yeah. Were we maybe going a little nuts, like, oh, they're a little too boring? It's like, not really. And the last title they won, the last few years where they were really competitive, they actually weren't boring.
Yeah,
I do find
awesome
it kind of like, I don't know if we want to talk about the Wembanyama thing, but I do find it kind of funny when Colin Cowherd's always criticizing Popovich. He's never embraced the 3-point shot. No. He did for a time there. I remember they lost to like Dallas in the playoffs, and then I think they realized, okay, we got to change up how we're doing stuff. And then they just made kind of a more free flowing offense that was more based around Tony Parker and Ginobili and just passing the ball around and movement and spacing and getting 3-point shots. Now, did they take it to the nth degree like the Warriors did or the Houston Rockets did with Harden? No, they didn't. But to act like Popovich just no. I mean, when they had Aldridge, when the Spurs had LaMarcus Aldridge, yeah, he was a mid-range guy. So of course they kind of built the team around shooting mid-range shots. And they had Kawhi there for, a little bit. So yeah, it's just, yeah, I do find that kind of funny that people are like, oh, well, he never embraced a 3-point shot. Not really.
All right, so is it just a slam dunk, Clark? Are we going to be watching Denver holding up the trophy in about 3 weeks?
I feel, and again, I'm a Heat fan, so obviously I'm going to be rooting for the Heat. But God, I just have a hard time believing they'd be able to beat the Nuggets 4 times. I mean, I just feel like the Nuggets, they know what they are, they know what they're doing on offense, and I just think that's going to be really difficult for Miami to deal with, especially because they don't really have, Bam is not tall enough to guard, Jokic. I mean, no one's really good. I mean, unless you got like Giannis, I just don't think anyone's good enough to really guard him, so that's kind of a problem. And then, if Jamal Murray's going to be doing what he's doing, I just think, I don't think the Heat will get swept, but I just don't see how they could possibly win any more than 2 games.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, listen, I feel vindicated. I said the Warriors would win the Western Conference, and, but we were all kind of bought into Milwaukee, like that would probably be the best team. And, after watching the Celtics in these playoffs, I'm like, they're not beating Denver. Like, I just don't see it. Jokic is kicking the shit out of the Lakers, and they have Anthony Davis. So he's going to just destroy whoever they're putting on him, and they just won't be able to deal. They're not going to be able to deal with Denver's offense, especially the way Boston's defense is played. So yeah, I think it's kind of I could see it being competitive reasonably, but I think Denver's got the best team, and they've got the best player, and maybe the best 2 players. Who knows? So yeah, it's awesome. It's awesome to be us right now, Clark. The Heat are winning. We like the Nuggets. It's a great place to be. So anyway, did you want to go on a rant about the college basketball relationship with the NBA?
Okay, so yeah, so Colin Cowherd was talking about I guess he was sort of complaining that we don't know who Wembanyama is because he's not playing college basketball here. Um, and that's kind of a big problem with the NBA and college basketball, is that these guys don't stay in college, so we don't know who they are. So there's not as much hype about them, and also they come into the league and it takes them a few years to for us to really know what they're going to be, because they've only played college 1 year. So, um, and the thing is, so first of all, that's a really old man take when it comes to college sports. And
Yep.
the deal is that, look, okay, this is, I think a lot of people are starting to come around on this, thank God. But here's the deal: college sports, the way that it's set up for, and not every single sport, but when we're talking about sports that make the kind of money that football and men's basketball make, that's a different, that's almost a different sport. That's like a different league than, like, if you go to college and you play, you know, uh, lacrosse, or you play, I'm trying to think, like baseball, you know.
Right.
So I know baseball and softball they do get more attention than maybe a lot of the other sports that you would have at a college, a lot of the other sports you would have at a college. But you know, yeah. Anyway, so basketball and football are just in a different stratosphere, okay? And it is completely, the system, the way that it's set up now is completely ridiculous, okay? There is nowhere else in the economy where you would be allowed to have a business that generates billions of dollars in revenue, okay? And the people who are the workers who are generating it don't get paid. Now, I understand they get NIL money, but they don't get the money that the colleges bring in terms of ticket sales and all the other stuff.
Right.
Okay? So that system is completely ridiculous. Okay? It shouldn't exist anymore. Like, literally, it shouldn't. You know, if players are going to be that talented and they're going to generate that much money, they should be getting paid. You know, it's not the players now. It's not their fault that this system was created the way it was created. You know, so the idea that, well, kids should stay in college longer, it's like, well, look, I can understand the idea of, playing on a team for a few years and kind of learning, developing your skills more before you get to the NBA. There's definitely some value in that. But how the hell can we tell people, well, no, you can't, you shouldn't just go to the league when they would actually draft you, or you can't play overseas, or you can't play in the G League, and get paid for playing. No, you got to go to college and pretend to be a college student for a semester, because in basketball that's really what it amounts to, because in the spring semester
Yep.
they don't do shit. They're just waiting to get drafted, you know. So yeah, I understand would it be nice if college basketball was more like that, like it used to be? Like, yeah, I understand that, but we're going to deny people getting paid in a system that is criminally unfair. I mean, literally, it's criminal. Like, basketball's not as bad as basketball is really bad, but it's not as bad as football, because college football generates so much more money. But I mean, it's literally criminal. Okay, so and also just the idea that it's like there's an adversarial relationship, and I think you pointed this out before. The players' union's not gonna allow them to raise the age limit for the NBA. Okay, so it's
Right.
got
That's
nothing to do
what
with what the. Go ahead.
that's what I started to interrupt. That's what the whole argument comes down to, right? The age limit is the reason why this thing works the way it does. Okay? Because the NBA doesn't allow you to come into the league till you're 19, you have to do something for that year when you're done with high school. Right? So that's what this whole thing comes down to. College basketball would be better if they raised the age limit. Yes. But the NBA shouldn't the NBA doesn't want to do that. The players union's like, "No, let these guys get paid."
Yeah. Well, and then the other thing is, um, I understand the argument of, well, it's such an opportunity to go to college and get an education and play basketball. And that is true to an extent because, a lot of players who play college sports, they're not going to end up playing that professionally. They're going to end up doing something else. Right. And then you can point out to, well, this has offered so many opportunities to underprivileged people, minorities and people in poor communities and all that stuff, which is true. But again, it also kind of, people will say, well, they wouldn't have been able to go to college otherwise. And I'm like, well, okay, don't you think that's a bigger problem? Do we need to solve this by having some whole fucked up system where like you have to play a sport that's really dangerous and then hopefully you get drafted and then you end up getting paid 3 years after that? And by the way, people might try to compare this to like an unpaid internship. Here's the problem. Most internships are paid, okay? But even if it was an unpaid internship, there's no 3 to 4 year unpaid internships, okay? That's
Right.
like indentured servitude, okay? That's absolutely ridiculous. So
Where you're putting your body at risk.
yeah. Yeah, and again, look, I just want to make this point, like I enjoy watching college football, and I guess I watch some college basketball, but it's an incredibly fucked up system. Okay, it is. It just is. It's wrong. Like you wouldn't you wouldn't try to get away with that. I mean, it's like now if like they used to have children used to work, right? But then they had child labor laws, because we're like, yeah, we can't. That's too fucked up. You can't do that. What the fuck is wrong with us? We're not letting kids work in factories and injure themselves and stuff. Because yeah, that's wrong. It's wrong for people to do something that generates billions of dollars in revenue and they don't get paid. And it's like, oh, you get a scholarship. Oh, yeah, okay, fine.
Well, and in football, there's no place else to go. There's really only one professional league. There's a couple more now, but they're small time. There's one professional league that you're really trying to get into. So in basketball, though, but in Europe, these guys are professionals when they're 14, 15 years old. So I don't understand, like, the way that we do this, where we've talked about this before, where we tie education to sports is wrong. But what I wanted to say was that, so the level of competition when it comes to basketball, where, Colin Cowherd's complaining, well, if college basketball was better, Wembanyama would have played here and blah, blah, blah. No, this is the level of basketball. Ready? NBA's number 1, right? EuroLeague is number 2. Then it's the G League and the Overtime Elite, which is a developmental league for the NBA. Then college basketball. So it's not like, oh, the competition's close. No, it's not close. The competition of college basketball does not prepare you for the NBA. So,
yeah, no,
I think I understand what the NBA is doing, where they don't want the age limit to be 18 because they don't want to be scouting kids in high school. Like, I get it why they're doing that for their own business. I understand. Right. But at the same time, yeah, it's completely ridiculous. The NBA's relationship with college basketball is fine. It's all based on this age limit. And, I don't buy that college basketball is this incredible marketing vehicle that everybody needs to use. I just don't buy it. So we're gonna get out of here and watch the Heat try to take Boston's lunch. So Thank you everybody for tuning in, and look forward to the next podcast when we'll be talking about 2 teams in the finals probably.
That's right. Yep.
Everybody have a good night.